Hi, my name is Miss Elena Fahie, affectionately known as Teacher Elena or Miss Fahie. My parents were the late Joseph Alexander Fahie, better known as Jojo Feely, and the late Florrie Letsom Fahie. I grew up in the old plantation area. I had a very happy childhood. I came from a family of 12, 6 brothers and 5 sisters. We didn't have much materially, but we had love from our parents and our extended family and from each other. One of my fondest memory of my childhood was going to school at the Longlook Infant School, which was held in the Methodist Prayer House, where I also went to Sunday school and prayer meeting with my parents and grandparents. Most of my childhood was spent in the old plantation area. We would only go to the Longlook area per se if we were going to the shop by the Moses Stevens General Store, Miss Tina shop, Mr. Sammy shop, Miss Dina Bakery, if we were going by our grandparents, which lived just up in the hill across from the sticket. My grandparents were the late Edmund Fletcher Letsom, better known as Edmund Blue Hole, and Catherine Kate Crab Letsom. My grandfather was a fisherman, and my grandmother was a stay-at-home mom, and she did garden like around the house. And my grandfather, he would have grow produce and thing in the farm away from him. He worked at one point in Santo Domingo. That is how he got the name Edmund Blue Hole. When they threw him off the boat, after he stayed back for one season, and then when he was going back, I don't think we want to say that. I went tell her, but don't say that. My grandfather he felt like if everybody goes Santo Domingo, we're going to take care of the girls. So one time he didn't go. And by the time he went, they both come back again. All the girls were pregnant. So when he get on the boat, they threw him over. Say, stay with the girls, you want to be with the girls. And he swam because he was a fisherman and went and caught the boat. So he ended up with the nickname Edmund Blue because it threw him over in the boat. But I didn't think I wanted to tell everybody that. I'll tell you. Both of my grandparents, Edmund and Kate Crab, as she was affectionately known, were staunch Methodist members. They never missed church. At that time, church was at Chapel Hill. So, because it was so far, they used the prayer house to do both church and school. The school went up to class 2. My father, Joseph Jojo Feely Fahie, as he was affectionately known, was a farmer, a crop farmer as well as a cattle farmer. He was very fond of animals, so much so that he would name his animals and they would know his voice from a way off. Even when he's going to the pasture, he would call them, they're up in the hill, and he would call them by name. By the time he reached to the well, they are down by the well. That's how affectionate he was with his animals. He planted all kind of different crops on his different plots of land. Lambert, Josiah's Bay, Little B, he carried the cattle to Josiah's behind the road, Granny Wimby. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, but in the yard we had domestic animals, cat, dog, sheep, goat, pigs, you name it, we had it. And we had to help to take, I had to help take care of them. I also had to go with my siblings to the pasture, but not as much as my sisters, because I was the oldest girl, so I had to help with the younger ones, help my mom take care of the younger ones. So I didn't go to pasture as much as my sisters, but I also went to pasture to help bring home the produce as well as the milk from the cows so that we could get food to eat. I was the only teacher, but we had my eldest brother, Boise, is a contractor. My late brother, Percy Foy, was an electrician. He was instrumental in us getting electricity, not only in Tortola, but also in Virgin Garden. Then I have another brother named Oraldo. He also is an electrician. My brother Maxie is an architect and a pastor. My brother Elsie was into construction work and he's also a pastor. My brother Ashil, which is the youngest, he was working, right now he's working at the hospital, but first he was working with the telephone company, CCT. It wasn't CCT yet, whatever the name was before. He worked with them. My sister Elena, she worked as a security at Beef Island. I trained her where she was a domestic worker. She cleaned and stuff like that. My sister Iona, she was an immigration officer. My sister Leona, she worked at Dr. Osmo. She's like a secretary, like that. And my youngest sister, Arona, was a farmer. She worked at the agricultural department. She was a farmer, acting agricultural officer. And right now she's an entrepreneur where she does her own, sell her own things, grow provisions and the like that she plants, as well as helping other farmers to sell their stuff. And she does her business at the Seacoast Well that is next to the Ebenezer Thomas Primary School, as well as she also has her own business. So where she lives in Seacoast Well. As I said, I came from a big family. I am the fourth of the 12 children, but I am the first girl. So I had to help to take care of my younger siblings. So I had 8 siblings, 8 younger siblings. I am also the first of my parents' children to go to high school. So I had to help the younger ones with their schoolwork, help to teach them things that they didn't understand, not only my siblings, but my cousins who were living close by. So during vacation time, as we didn't have many material things, we would play school. We would have schoolhouse in the yard because we had a big yard. So I would teach my siblings and my cousins during vacation time. So that gave me a love for children and for teaching. I also worked with community organizations like the Sunday School, the guides. I had rainbows, brownies, gold guides, rangers. I also helped with the Girls Brigade and the Boy Scout, the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. At one time, one lady asked me if I'm the most approachable person in Long. But most of that happened before I had my own children. So after I started my family, then some of those things fall off. I didn't really miss anything since I retired because I am still teaching. And so I still interact with, I have after school classes. Parents ask me to assist children. So I started an after school class before I was a principal. I had to stop when I was a principal, but after I retired, I picked it back up. So I still interact with parents and with teachers and with children on a daily basis. So I didn't really miss anything much more than I could wake up late and don't have to rush to go to school. I began my teaching career on October 5th, 1970, as a trainee teacher at the Eastern Primary School, which is now known as the Willard Whitley Primary School. During 20 plus years there, I went to the Audiston College to train as a teacher in Barbados. And when I came back, I went back to the Willard Whitley Primary School, which was renamed while I was there. Then I went to work at Alexandrina Meadow Primary School for 4 years. I worked at the Joyce Samuel Primary School for 2 years. And then I came to the Francis Letson Primary School as the principal. I came as a principal in 2005. I spent 8 years as the principal and I retired in 2013. So I had a total of 42 years in education. My grandmother Philly was a setter. My eldest brother Ivan, that was only my father's home, it was my mother's home. He too was a setter. My grandmother used to boil bush. So when people were sick and can't get out of bed and what have you, she boiled bush and she would bag them, or she would buy bush, boiled bush, and give them to drink. My auntie Doris was also like that, which was my father's sister. My grandmother, Ophelia Feely Thoma, was a setter. She used to make medicine for people. She could tell you which bush to drink after you had a baby, which bush to bathe the baby in when they have prickle heat, and all those things. The maiden apple was for the fever, and the sea girl was for the belly hurt, and the saucer was for when you couldn't sleep, yes. When you couldn't sleep, you used to drink. They used to give you saucer drink, saucer bush. And if you have a high fever, they will make your bed with saucer bush, and the saucer bush would draw the fever from the child. So you put down the saucer bush and you put like a diaper over it so it don't be cold. And then you put the child down. And then when the child, those bush will draw the fever, that the leaves will be dry when you're finished. And that was because everybody, you had to go to the hospital, and that was in town. We didn't have many the clinics that we have now, we didn't have then. So all of my mother children were born at home. The midwives, Miss Rosalind Payne, delivered all of my mother 12 children. Rosalind Payne, Nani. She was also my Sunday school teacher. So we were all born at home. When I was growing up, we had a lot of board houses. And sometimes, as the family grew, you would build a wall house or a block house around to make rooms. And then after that, as people went away to different places and got more money available, they started building block houses instead of board houses. We had dirt roads, and now we have paved roads, concrete roads. I remember vividly the bridge that we have in Nangluk. That used to be 2 pieces of plywood across the gut for us to go across to Langluk. When I was growing up, we would go across on the boards, but now we have a bridge. We now have retaining walls to safeguard the goods from undermining the homes. We didn't have that before. The gut will just fall away when there's a rain or when we have lots of rain. Another thing that we had when I was growing up, we had windows that you throw open. And as you get more money and you build your wall houses, you put in what they call jealousy. We used to call them jealousy. They were made from galvanized, and then afterward we moved to the glass windows and the glass doors. But first doors, you throw them open, you didn't lock up. Just shut in your door and you go where you want to go. But now you have to lock your door. So that's a vast difference that we have. Before we had electricity, we would use flambeau, we would use lamps and lanterns. And then when we got electricity, we had fluorescence, some long lights that would not burn as much watts as the others. So most of the homes would have been connected. I can't remember what year the electricity came, but I know that my brother Post was working at the electricity company, BVI Electricity Company, and he was one who was instrumental in us getting electricity in the Tatola area, and afterward he was sent to Virgin Garden as the director to make sure that Virgin Garden got electricity. When my father never used to let us go anyway, so we play in the yard, especially moonlight night. But at home, we had lamps that you will fill with oil, and then you put the shade. And then during the day, you had to wash the shade because it will get crusty. You would wash the shade for the night. You had lanterns, you had flashlights. So we used those to do what we had to do. But we made sure that we finished most of our chores before night, especially our homework and stuff like that. But then when we get electricity, it was different. We could do our homework in the night and things like that. But before, we had to make sure that we get our homework, all the chores, the washing the dishes and the bringing in the sheep and whatever else before the night comes there. We had kerosene lamps, as I said, the lanterns and the lamps, they were kerosene. And then we had gas lamp where you would pump. So we had all, and the gas lamp gave you more light than the kerosene. But the oil lamp and thing that was when you didn't have a lot of money and all of that. But when your children come and they could walk and you have a little bit more money, you could buy a gas lamp and those things. But first, we couldn't buy no gas lamp and all that. So we had, but people used to use candles, but my father didn't like candles. So we never used candles like in the night like that. We mostly had the lamp, the lantern, the flashlight. And if you're going outside, especially like Pope night, as I said, we have our flambeau and stuff like that. We used to play Dolly House at home when the China place fall down and mash up. That was our money. And the dollies were the corn huts. Then you take out the corn and you leave on the stalk and we plant them. We plant the hair. And as I said, we play school. At school, and we also play, especially moonlight, my grandmother, which was my father's mother, forget her, Ophelia Thoma. She used to play, especially moonlight nights. We would play skipping and we would play ring games and we would play marble with our brothers. We would play jacks and ring around the roses. That's a ring game. Hide and seek. We would do hide and seek. Pope night was one of the big things when I was growing up. We would have big heaps. We would cut down all the old dry trees and garbage and make big pope. And you look around the hillside to see everybody on light, and you wait for the last to light yours. But you had to watch it like a hawk because sometimes people will come along the road because you were living close to the road and you'd only see a pope light. You would see it blazing. So we had lots of fun as children growing up, telling stories. We had a lot of stories. And one of the things my grandmother Fahie, when the trunk coming in at Josiah's place, she will see she showing it us in clouds. I mean, I don't know whether we had seen or not, but we make her believe that, yes, we have received. and then the next day you will hear that, yeah, the people get the trunk and then you get the trunk meat and then you get the trunk oil and all of that we use when you get the bowl. But I never used to eat it. I was very picky. I won't say that. I was very picky. So it's not many things I used to eat. So the trunk oil and the trunk meat, even though it was there and it would be in the house and it would be cooked, I would eat it. They would force me to drink the trunk oil, especially my grandmother Fahie. She would say, you have to get this oil so you don't get the cold. I know we used to have majorettes, yet we used to have fruits. Miss Dinah's Charish used to have the biggest majorette group. And my grandmother Ophelia was instrumental in the Harvest Wednesday. It used to be there on the field. You will have the troops pass around the village. They come from Eastern, they go down the bay and they come down by us and then come in Greenland. After a while they had to eat. So You just see the parade pass down, and you hadn't put your main thing back then and stuff like that. And you would go up on the stage and you perform your troupe and things like that. When people come to your house and they sing and you share your goodies with them or you give them money, that is something I really missed from when we were growing up. Christmas used to be a jolly time, a happy time where family, we had the fungi bands, and then we had a neighbor named Calvin, and we had our own fungi band that we had because he used to play and we would sing and thing right there in the yard. But he passed now though. But Christmas was a happy time compared to what we have now. With the caroling and stuff, you look forward to caroling. You look forward to the school's Christmas concert, and we look forward to saying our recitation and being in the play and all of that when we were going to school. Christmas time was a jolly time. His name was Calvin Fahie. He used to just play there by us because we were neighbor and everybody, and he played the banjo and the bagpipe. And we just sing there around the house. He wasn't really, I can't remember if he was a back of a band. I know he used to probably work, but I can't remember if he was a back of a band, but I know because he was living right there by us. That house was right there above him. Was his sister owned over, which is what he passed his sister to. And he was living with her and we right there. So all of us used to be like one big happy family. And when night, especially moonlight nights, he would come down and we would play and we would just dance and sing. But I can't remember if he was in a band, so I don't think I really want to sing. My words of encouragement to the youth is to put God first in everything that you do. Be proud of who you are and where you come from. Be the change that you want to see. Get the highest level of education you can attain through hard work, discipline, and persistence. You can do it. Inspire, motivate, and assist the younger generation to pursue their dreams. Strive to be a world changer. Think globally and not just locally. People who did great things in our country came from long look. Rise to the challenge.